Hello and welcome to the Being and Becoming podcast. Together, we're being honest in conversations about thoughts we're having and books we're reading, in the hopes of becoming better, more able versions of our current selves. My name is Logan Hauer. Today, I'm joined by my regular co-host and good friend, Patrick Dyer. Pat, how are you doing today?
The usual, not too bad. Not too bad.
And not too bad is good in my books.
So far, I can say the same.
So, yeah, I think we're both busy in different ways right now, and I do appreciate you still making the time to hop on and chat here. And full disclosure too, I figure I'd share this up front, but this will be the last episode I think that you and I will do together before the baby because I guess this is an announcement to you and the listener because they don't know, but I'm planning to do the last episode of, I'm calling it the second season of our show on August 26th. And so that'll be like the final episode of season two. And then there will be further seasons, but those can be discussed at a later date. Um, but just kind of wanted to, I guess, let you and the listeners know this is our last conversation on the pod for a while at least. So
I'll look forward to the remaining seasons to come.
yeah,
All infinite of them.
yeah, and we'll go out with a bang here today. I know we're gonna I know we're gonna get after some stuff. So just kind of recapping for the listener some of the things we have been talking about. I thought have been really interesting. The last couple episodes you and I have done, which has been going back to a couple episodes ago, again, Blue Zones. If anyone's been listening to the show, I've been talking about this a lot. I won't go into it in depth here, but encourage anyone who hasn't heard that episode to go back and listen to that episode. It's been very inspiring to me. I still think about that conversation, Pat, that we had, and am definitely trying to direction my aim in that area as far as having better community, health, lower stress, I heard a great quote that I shared on the podcast last week with Philip Lunt, which I would encourage anyone to listen to as well, which was someone at a conference I was at had said, if it's not going to make you angry in 3 days, you should just let go of it after like 30 minutes or whatever. You don't need to hold on to that stuff. And I think, that was also kind of a good little reminder, if you will, of, we do have some capacity in like controlling the things we worry about, and that can help dictate and manage our stress levels. So I thought that was a great piece of advice. And then last episode we got real into Calvinism, and I know that's been you had been saying that was a topic that you've been deep diving here. So yeah, I appreciate you kind of sharing some thoughts on that, and yeah, just kind of wanted to touch base. Is there anything new you've been thinking about, or any other notes on those couple of conversations that we've had that you kind of wanted to revisit?
Unfortunately, sorry to disappoint, nothing new.
Yeah, no,
Definitely, my mind's been consumed elsewhere, just with moving and all the other things. But
totally
some
understandable. Yeah,
something somewhat interesting though. Uh, so I'm in a little Facebook group chat with my friends from my neighbors from Ohio, the Schmitz and Acres.
shout out Schmitz and Acres.
Yeah, and there's a couple other people in there as well. And someone posted some videos of themselves from when they were like 6, 7, and 8 years old. And then we all started talking about nostalgia and
Yeah,
just what an interesting thing that is, nostalgia.
I know it's such an appropriate concept to talk about too on this like episode being at the end of a season and stuff.
And with you about
But
to have a kid too, think this kid's about to be having this child. That sounds so aggressive, this kid. This child is it when it becomes of age is going to be making wonderful memories and
yeah,
he or she will experience the same bit of nostalgia that we do years
yeah.
down the road. So interesting. It's just really interesting.
It is that whole cycle of. you're a kid, then you're basically an adult, and there's stuff that happens, and then you're like, wait, when did I stop being a kid? What, did I
Yeah.
did I stop
Yep.
being a kid? What's going on here? I'm already having a kid. Am I ready for, but
Right. Yeah. No, that's a
but
very fair question. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I mean, but to the nostalgia point, I will say I'm someone that looks to the past and finds comfort and value and things of that nature. And my wife is someone that looks to the future and finds a lot of value in like looking to the future. So it's like an
Oh,
interesting
wow.
complement.
That
Um,
is interesting.
yeah, so like it's not she's not super nostalgic. Um, like uh in the way that like I think if you and I were to get together today and like sit out, have a
Man.
margarita or like some
Oh
bourbon
my
or something and just
gosh,
kind of
dude.
relive some old times, like that sounds like a slice of heaven to me.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's like she's always planning, sacrificing, looking towards the future, which I think that's good, and that's how like society and people like advance and
Mm.
change. But at the same time, gosh darn it, let me sit in my chair and yeah,
And
talk with my
reminisce.
buddies. I
Yeah.
know, I know. But yeah, no, I think, gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up now. Nostalgia has just been, it's something too, and I think this was in the Jordan Peterson discussion that we had back in season one of this show of the there nostalgia, like you shouldn't dwell on it, you shouldn't live in it like forever, don't let it consume you, but it does indicate to you about something that happened in the past which is worth revisiting or trying to recreate in your present or like for the future, and like it can have like um really good messages or whatnot. And we think about like different stories or memories or what have you, and the way that like certain people or certain events made us feel, and it's like, yeah, it's worth thinking about that because then that'll help us create or cultivate that in our current existence. I wasn't, but I to kind of turn it back over to you here, Pat. I was that along the lines of your conversation with your friends was, or was it more so like, like how deep was it, or was it just like reliving great memories and all that sort of stuff?
It was a lot of it was just trying to figure out what it kind of was. Like what in the world is nostalgia? We obviously understand what it is. We when we say the word, everyone knows what we're talking about, but trying to really point a finger and figure out why these things
Yeah.
was just it was tough. I don't really have a good explanation or answer, but I try to think of nostalgic experiences and memories and then what triggers them now today. And recently, like a couple discussions ago, when we had the layover in CBG, but I couldn't leave
Yep.
the airport, that
Yep.
was just triggering memory after memory and time after time. But it felt horrible to have that triggered and not be able to go anywhere and do anything, just stuck at the airport. And then like we were mentioning earlier, the same thing when I was up in Iowa, I was sick, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, but all these experiences and memories that I've had were right there in front of me. And yeah, so a lot of nostalgia that I've experienced lately has been despairing, unfortunately.
Mm,
So that's an interesting aspect about it as well. It's not all good.
yeah. And the despair, you're saying that you're experiencing it. Is it more so like you wish you could go back in time, or um and also if this is too personal too, like feel free to be like, not for the
I'm
podcast.
an open book. I'm an open book.
But is it more so like a longing for, oh, I wish I could revisit like take Patrick Dyer, the man he is today, and just put him back in that, body or whatever of that, like have the same mind and, knowledge or whatever, put him back there? Or is it more so like, I wish like today, I see you got the moving boxes. You guys are
Mhm.
obviously getting ready to move and stuff, but is it more so like, I wish I could be moving back to Cincinnati today?
Ah, it's both those for sure.
Okay.
It definitely is both. I bet the answer might change if it were the former, but that's hard to think about. That's definitely hard to articulate.
Yeah.
because obviously I've expressed so many times my love for Cincinnati, Fairfield, Hamilton, the whole area. It's just beautiful, it's wonderful, and it's home. And being so
It's
many, I'm decently well traveled throughout the country, and so it's like, man, there's only one or two places I would say that rival it to me to where I would want to live forever. So,
and do you think part of that could be just growing up there, all the connections, or
oh yeah.
do you think it's like objectively like it's a great spot to raise a family and like whatever the other criteria might be? Like is it subjective or objective in your estimation?
By a long shot, subjective, and it is without a doubt number one with the connections. But
Yeah.
objectively, a solid number two would definitely be it's a great spot to live, start a family, keep a family going. I mean, the schooling is excellent. The universities are great. I mean, the weather could be better, of course, but
Yeah.
it's not that bad. I don't mind the cold. So,
No, I think the Midwestern people in general are
oh,
very, very great people,
yeah, definitely.
hospitality and the way of life too. Like
Way
it's
better than
not
Texas.
had to get it in there.
I had to.
But but yeah, no, I think it's like, you know, just a slower. I don't like the quickness and you know, I'm reading this book right now. It's called To Hell with the Hustle by Jonathan Berthke or Bethke maybe.
Interesting.
And it's similar to John. I also read John Mark Comer's The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry at the end of last year, and they're very similar in the premise, but it's a good reminder to, you know, because our jobs get us in this mindset of efficiency, use my time well, da da da, I can get more done, blah blah. Blah. And then me, I inadvertently or maybe intentionally apply that to my home life as well. I need to get all
Mm,
this stuff done. Then once I get this stuff done, then I can invite so and so over. I can finally relax and blah blah. But you're never gonna like solve that list. You're never gonna finish that list to where you'll finally be like everything is accounted for and done, and I'll be able to relax. It's like there's always gonna be that one more thing. And
yeah.
so I think I've been challenged in that like you do have to find uh like the balance, I guess. Because even what we're talking about with like looking in the past and feeling nostalgic, it's like I think every person should look to their past and be informed by it. Or you could make that argument too for a broader history. Like everyone should try to know history or be interested in history. I had a good conversation with Ethan Storms on this a couple weeks ago, if anyone wants to check out that episode. But it's like we should have an interest in our like kind of like a collective past so we can learn and not make those same mistakes. But then, yeah, we also want to be looking towards the future. It's this weird blend and it's impossible to do and it feels overwhelming. And then that book, though, in John Mark Comer's book and Jonathan or whatever the other guy's name is, they're both, I feel like, just trying to center you, you know, and be like, yes, it's good to be doing those things, but practice Shabbat. You know, like celebrate the Sabbath. Have a day where it's like
Mm.
you're not on your phone, you're not doing any of that crazy stuff. My parents implemented that rule in our house later in high school, I think, about um, they called it No Tech Day, which was not I didn't love that, but if they would have called it Shabbat or Sabbath or like that's something I would like to instill in our and Peyton and I obviously are gonna have a baby, and that's something I'd like to instill in our family, which is like let's have a day or a night where like I'm not on my phone, you're not on your phone, but we're just like hanging out and we're like playing games, you know, as the kids get older and like or
Mm.
it doesn't even have to be games, you know, just but like we're doing something together as a family. Maybe we're all playing music or like we're just like hanging out, you know, and just spending like a lot of quality time together. And we don't have to do that like every night or whatever, but I think there should be like Friday night is Shabbat and like you get home and you just from work and you take everything off. You don't work on projects. You don't blah blah blah. You don't plan for the future. You live in the moment as a family and like and am I hitting somewhere, Pat?
Oh, absolutely. That
Dude,
sounds
I am all
amazing.
over the board. My logical train of thought. I understand if anyone's listening, that was not very coherent, but I have so many thoughts on this and yeah.
That's a blue zone activity right there you're describing.
Yes, sir. See, it all ties in. It all ties
It does
back.
indeed. It does indeed. That's a great idea. That's phenomenal. I like that a lot. I should
there
do
have
the
been
same.
a couple books I've read and then also podcasts I've listened to where it's like it was a parenting pod. Well, the podcast is not about parenting, but they had an episode on there that had like parenting advice, so I listened to that. Obviously, about to be a parent, and that was one like that piece of advice that stood out to me the most was like practice Shabbat, like have something holy and sacred like in your family routine or life or
Wow.
whatever and like stay to it each week. So that's really been like kind of setting with me and like yeah, informing. You know, just Leah, my sister Leah asked me uh she visited a couple weeks ago and she asked like what have you guys talked about like what values you want to instill in like your house? And I was just like,
What a question.
girl, we're just like trying to get the crib set up and the room painted and like but I'm like you're asking the better question, which is like
Much. Yeah,
how are we gonna be good stewards of the gift that God is giving us? You know what I mean? Like to kind of
absolutely.
take it to that level, it's like we have this human life that we're in charge of, and we get the opportunity to cultivate like a family rhythm routine. And I'm getting really excited just talking to you about it now. But it's like, what are we gonna do at that time? It's so scarce and so valuable. And oh my goodness. Yeah, sorry. I'm
No,
I'm
that's
gonna
a,
turn it back over to you. Yeah,
I'm glad she asked that question. That's something we should all be thinking of constantly, really.
it's a
That's
great point.
that's something we need to have solidified
And I will
about
say,
ourselves.
you know, I think your family, I guess I should ask you if you agree with this, but like my family, your family, Austin's family, like very conscious about like what values are we instilling in our children. And like and I think it like obviously it um paid off well for us. Like we've all become adults that are well adjusted and you know, trying each day to be like honest and aim upwards, you know, and we will fail to meet that aim. We won't hit the mark every time. We will sin. We'll struggle and fail and all that good stuff. But it's like we're striving upwards. We're trying to leave the place better than we found it. You know, we're trying to build instead of tear down. Like, I think all of that is good things. And um, yeah, it's weird. It's like maybe my nostalgia can inform the values that we want to instill and like it my wife too and like you know um that could and should be a conversation in the future that we should have so and
Certain.
maybe
Yeah.
people listening are like you should have already had that and planned it out and blah blah and to that I say be gone
Yeah.
no unless it's coming from a trusted person in a good place but anywho
Then free game, free game.
Right. If you said
Roasted.
that to me,
Roasted.
I would listen to it and sit on it. But if Joe Schmo, you know, sorry, Joe Schmo, it ain't gonna get listened to. But
Mm. Now I'm thinking, shoot.
what are you thinking, Pat?
Well, that connection you just brought up between nostalgia and values. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
of nostalgic experiences and memories and how they've shaped my thoughts about particular things today. Mm.
Well, could I maybe pose a question to you on that?
Please.
Um, so like if some kind of nostalgia or just a respect for the past, you know, we could call it that too.
Oh,
You know,
that's a good point.
if there's a way that you can look into your past, respect it, and find value in it, do you think it could prevent you or inform the decisions you're going to make, like in your present or your future?
Yeah, it could for sure.
Yeah. So then, hmm. So then it's like, well, what determines it? Like, what things are the most important to direct you and to guide you? You know?
Hmm.
Because there's so many experiences we have in the past. Obviously, we can't remember over half of them probably, but it's like, yeah, okay. Simple example, but we'll illustrate this point. You touch a stove, it's hot. You know not to touch the stove. That informs your future decisions. You're not going to think about it. But something like, gosh, I don't want to go to a trickier example, but we could. Let's say something like, um, like our family did not value, or not my family. I'm saying hypothetically, like if your family didn't value alcohol, but then you like to drink alcohol, obviously respectfully, and this we're assuming in this situation, but you like to drink alcohol, then you're at conflict with like that value that you've been up raised with, but then you're also like in the present, you're like, I'm okay with this. I'm going to do this kind of thing. Does that make sense? Like that would be one you would think about more as opposed to the stove. The stove, you're just going to touch it. Ow, I'm not going to do that again. There's no thought really carrying forward. But then there are other experiences I think that we have that we like. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's they leave a bigger the past experiences that leave the biggest imprint on us. We're going to carry forward and think about the most.
Hmm, I can see that.
But even I'm going to contradict myself because I think of something small like that time we were at your house and we were maybe playing football or something, and one of your dad, maybe your mom, took a video and we are all like just started dancing to that song. Um,
That popped up on my Facebook today.
oh, it's on Facebook. That's even better.
Maybe it said like it might have been a picture. I didn't click it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't click it, but
Funny the timing too of that lining
yeah,
up. You're getting
yeah.
that notification as I bring it up here. But like, so that would undermine my previous point because it's not a drastic event. It's not like I had this family value that I was raised with and it's being contested. But I guess it would be I have this value that's being upheld, which is I love my friends and I love living life, and that was an example of being with my friends and living life to the fullest. Um, so maybe that's why it's impressionable. But it's not as drastic as a thing as of like wrestling with like a value, I guess. I don't know. Pat, rescue me.
We can pose a different question or something.
Does my line of thought track? Or I think
Yeah,
I got too ambiguous.
and an ambiguity is fine. Ambiguity. It is a gray issue for sure.
Yeah.
I guess.
Maybe the question I'll pose to you is this, like, what experiences do you think from our past form our values or future, etc.?
What experiences from our past inform our values? All of them, I guess.
So
I
even
guess
even
so. Even the
let's
bad ones, yeah.
let's take this into account though, because I was going based off memory. So you're saying all of the past experiences, which could in fact be deeper than like a physical memory. Is that
Sure, it
what you're
could,
saying?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you're saying all of the things that have happened in the past form us whether we remember them or not.
I would say it plays a part to some degree, whether we're aware of it or not,
That's a really
probably.
good point.
But I'm trying to think another thing. I'm trying to think of who I am now and how I think about things, how that came about.
Mm,
And I'm trying to tie nostalgic experiences into it. And I think there's definitely nostalgic memories that play a significant role into how I think about things, but it's also recent, not nostalgic experiences that have shaped and formed my current way of thinking and feeling towards things that have probably played a bigger role actually in the current me
yeah.
per se. Hmm. So in
Because
the end, it probably doesn't matter.
yeah. Because I think so introducing nostalgia back into it, I think nostalgia would be the things that we remember that we long for from the
Oh, yeah.
past.
Great point. Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
for
then
sure. Oh, I like that. Yes. Yes.
so
Yes.
then like maybe the value going back to because I want to differentiate them a little bit because I think mentally I was getting tripped up with this. So if we differentiate them, the nostalgia's the things we remember from the past that we long for, then the other piece of that would be the values. And I liked what you were saying, where those might not be conscious things. Those might not be things we even remember, but we're just presented with a situation and we know I'm going to do this or that. I'm not going to do this. I will do that. And that might not be, maybe it is a specific thing that our parents have taught us, we've, learned behaviors or whatever, but maybe some of that is also just like all these memories baked into, or I'll call them experiences, all these experience baked into us, even if we can't remember. And that might even get into like genes and stuff too.
Mhm.
If we want to go that route. But I'm just going to focus right now on the individual, like the person. Um, there's all these experiences that are baked into us. We might not be able to remember all of them, but they can guide our decision making, our values, our planning for the future, etc. But then I think I'm going to shelf that because I think the piece that we are most interested in is the nostalgia piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely within what we long for sure. That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking of onto right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the other mode of thinking, that value line of thinking, if you will, is kind of predicated on the present and what you have almost,
Mm.
or like what you know. It's like it's the knowledge you have, and then like the nostalgia is like you still, I guess, have that knowledge, but you don't have. It's not with you. It's like it's in that other place. It's already happened, and how do I go back to that place to rekindle that, experience?
Think of a nostalgic memory or experience right now and think of what it was that makes it nostalgic, that longing piece, and what is it?
Dude, I'm so glad you asked because we're actually going on a family vacation we used to do every year growing up, Conneaut Lake, Pennsylvania. Shout out Conneaut Lake. And and it was really special because it was one of the few times where we're all just together in the same place, like extended
Oh,
family, not my immediate family, but immediate and extended, where we were like all together. Um, it yeah, I don't I there was definitely like obviously like people were unhappy at times or fighting or whatever, but it was like we all like 20 of us like got along super well and we didn't it wasn't the nicest place in the world. Like some years, some cabins we didn't have AC and stuff and like the amenities, whatever there, but like we were all together and none of the other stuff really mattered. It was like, oh, nice, we have a nicer thing or whatever, nicer place, but it was like if we could all like be together and just enjoy each other's company and I just remember watching my grandpa play like Minesweeper or we'd watch a movie, we'd sit around and watch a movie together. And one year I had a karaoke machine, so we're doing karaoke and like it just gives you a like yeah, like confidence or makes you feel like you can take heart and take on the world and like I'm
yes.
I'm rambling a little bit
Yes.
here, but
No, keep going. Don't stop.
I like to answer your question. I think that's like it's tough to even put it in language. I think like to say, well, what does that trip or that experience or those people mean to you? It's like it's more than the sum of its parts. It's
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to start preaching here. I'm about to go off,
Hey,
go all the way off, Pat.
I'm all ears. Oh my gosh. Go off.
Yeah. Can I pose the same question to you? I'd be curious to hear like, is there a specific either place, memory, like something like that triggers the same thing in you?
I could name 20 probably, but yes, and it is the
Yeah.
exact same though. It's connection with friends and family for sure, just the large groups. Similarly, growing up every year, my family would meet in Ames, Iowa to visit my dad's side, and then we would also go in the summertime to 10 Mile Lake, Minnesota to visit my mom's side. And the memories and times just don't get any better than that. And I
Yeah.
know what it is. Of course, it's exactly what you just said. I couldn't care any less about fancy this or fancy that, or just the fact that we're all together, living life, experiencing life. And it's important that when you leave, it hurts.
Yeah.
And then when you get back home, you're inspired to do and be more. I remember this
Ooh.
so well. So my um both sides of my family are quite successful in terms of finances, but also in terms of family, the families they've built, uh, the homes they built, the values they've instilled. They've been successful in everything they've said and done, pretty much. That's very evident for the children and grandchildren and now great grandchildren to see. And so living in their excellence with them seriously for quite a long time made me want to be so much more than I ever could have been had I not had those experiences. And it's interesting that the feelings that I'm describing do fade the longer I'm apart from them. Because whenever we would go to Vienna, Virginia, which is my mom's side as well, for like Thanksgiving break, I see my grandpa studying. I would see my uncle studying. They're all really smart. They would discipline their time so well to have family time and study time. And then I'm like, wow,
Mm.
they're doing so well. That's so cool. I still am so loved by them and I see them doing work. And then, of course, I would get home and be able to finish out the rest of that quarter or semester, what it was at school, to the best of my ability because I was so inspired by them. And then over time, unfortunately, that inspiration does fade as I'm apart from them. But that's really interesting to think about that. It's definitely the connection with them building me up.
And I love that idea that you can be around people that are going to draw the best out of you. Like
Yeah,
all you in your example you
absolutely.
just said, like you're it's not even that they're like, "Come on, Patrick, let's do this." It's like you're watching the way that they are, and that's
Mm-hmm.
like and it's drawing that out of you. It's not there's no coaxing, there's no
Mm.
manipulation or any it's just like it's the purest form of like being, you know?
It is. And I wish so bad that life sometimes wasn't the way it was because as we've all gotten older, we've all moved to separate parts of the country, and now it's just so difficult to reunite. It's so
Yeah.
difficult for everybody.
Yep. Man. That's the that's the thing that's so there's this beautiful thing that you're experiencing when you're with your family on these trips. The values that you were saying that have been instilled from like now what are great grandparents to great grandchildren. Like there, to me, that's a legacy. There's
Yes.
this
Yeah.
value um, larger than them, larger than life that's like transcending these generations. And like I think that's so beautiful. I think that's so
Oh, yeah.
cool. And just when you were talking about that, I was thinking about it. But then it's like so there's this beautiful thing going on, but then our schedules are, this like these in my mind they're like little, and I'm not saying in your this isn't specific to just the instance you shared. This is also happening to me and my family, and maybe other people out there listening can relate to this as well. But there's schedules and there's busyness and there's things you got to do and checklists that need done. And like at the end of the day, are those things worth keeping you from those experiences and those like all the joy that you could be having,
I was
you
just
know?
about to bring that up too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
In fact, on that note, I know we have to go somewhat soon, but
Yeah.
um, speaking of values with family, Allison and we talk about this frequently, and I haven't changed my mind on it, but I want to talk about it a lot because it means a lot to me at the moment. I'm like,
Sure.
I can see in the next 10 to 20 years the way I want to direct my life, our lives. And so I talk about wanting a Corvette all the time. That's
Yeah.
expensive,
Yep.
but and in this area of Texas where we're at, there are like tons and tons and tons of large, beautiful homes that are unfortunately unbelievably expensive just because of the way the world is right now. I'm like, I don't know if I'm willing to put in the effort and time to afford a house like this if it means taking away from my family right now. And I
Mm.
don't know how to balance that because like I've told you in Austin many times, I really want to get back into school. Being a CRNA, a nurse anesthetist would be amazing. That's my number one interest right now. I want to do that so bad. And the reason I'm not pulling the trigger is it is a 3-year commitment with very little breaks, and I'm just gonna miss, unfortunately. I don't want to
Mm,
say this too out loud because I don't want it to. I'm gonna miss the final moments of a lot of family time,
yeah.
and that just knowing that could happen during the amidst the program, a very challenging one at that, would be very tough.
Yeah, man. Like I don't want you or anybody to be in that situation of like, but yeah, it's like there are trade-offs and it's not fair. It's like in in an ideal world you could have your cake and eat it too, and
Yeah, yeah,
and but even just beyond, like, obviously trade-offs come from economics, but just beyond economics, like the way we live our lives, there's trade-offs. It's like we can live here, we can live there. We can be with this person or that person. Like there's only so many hours in the day. And here's, I think, a nugget of hope kind of in this, realizing our limited capacity and time and everything, is that I think that, you know, oh, I lost it. What? That's not good.
no,
Oh, no, it just went out of
no.
my mind. It went blank.
Who?
So maybe there is no hopeful nugget.
Yeah. Oh, dang, we're screwed. We're screwed.
No, wait. Oh gosh. Yeah, I lost it.
I'm gonna think a lot about what we were talking about just a few minutes ago, drawing inspiration from. I'm gonna see if I can draw a lot of inspiration from nostalgia per se.
Hmm.
Because at the very beginning of the conversation, you were talking like, oh, some people view it as a despairing thing, some people view it as a happy thing. I'm definitely in the middle of it between those things. But I do lean more towards the saddened side of nostalgia because I'd want those things, but I know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, the only things, quote unquote, I would consider nostalgic in the last few years would be family reunions.
Hmm.
So, dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good point though to end on. Like, what's an actionable step I can take? It's like,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to gather.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, because there is that line, right, of the nostalgia, despair, or like maybe hope. I don't know what you
Oh, yeah, no,
like.
no, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
like
Yeah.
informed, hope to inform, a better way or whatever.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's like you kind of have to lean into the despair a little bit to be like, what is this thing? I need to wrestle with it. I need to look at it and stare in the face. But
Mm.
then it's like I need to also get back on this side because it's like it should also inform like what I'm doing.
Right.
Um, but yeah, no, I think, needless to say, I think this is a conversation that, although we probably won't be having on the podcast again, like you and I and Austin whenever he's back, we can just, I think this is a conversation worth kind of keeping. And like you said,
Agreed.
it's something that's so close to both your heart and my heart, um, that I think that it's a great way to spend this final episode and to hopefully challenge ourselves moving forward. I just wish I could remember what the hopeful
The
nugget of
nugget.
truth
Yeah.
was. Oh, lost the nugget. But anyhow, Pat, as always, thank you for, yeah, joining me, and it's always a great conversation
Mm.
when we are talking. So
It is
I
an
just,
unbelievable pleasure every time.
likewise, likewise. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you when we see you. Thanks, Pat.
Bye, everybody.